This Michael Thomas story is getting awfully bizarre. So stories out there say that Thomas delayed getting surgery on an injured ankle in week 1 of last season. Recently, Jeff Duncan of NOLA.com reported that Thomas ignored calls from coaches and trainers for up to 3 months in the offseason.
Right.
Thomas has apparently accused the team of trying to damage his reputation coming out, and Sean Payton's been pretty vocal about, you should have gotten this surgery ahead of time, and now he's going to have to miss about 6 to 7 weeks of this season.
Yep.
Thomas also sent out a cryptic tweet. They tried to damage your reputation. You saved theirs by not telling your side of the story. That was the tweet that he sent out. So not directly talking to anybody,
right.
But we know what he's doing. To me, this is as big a part of this story as anything else. Thomas also liked a tweet because, yes, this is now news that we pay attention to. What tweets do you retweet and like? Thomas also liked a tweet that suggested that the Saints asked him to not get surgery back at the start of last season because they wanted to get Breeze another championship final season with the team. So there's a lot to digest there. What do you make of all of that?
I really don't know, because I'm in a position where I kind of started to believe everybody. It was one of those, oh, that makes sense. Oh, well, that makes sense too. Well, now that I've heard this part, so I'm not quite sure where I fall with this, because the Saints organization and their head coach really seemed like he was really upset and really bothered that this surgery hadn't already taken place. Now, I personally, if I had to fall down the middle, I think there's both sides are right. So I think that they did ask Michael Thomas not to get this surgery at the beginning of last season, so they could try to get so they try to get Drew Brees one more championship ring, right? But I also believe Sean Payton and everybody in the Saints organization, where once that was over, they expected him to go ahead and have the surgery and not wait till the beginning of this season to do so. So I think you're kind of looking at both sides. And I'm not so sure that Michael Thomas didn't say, oh, you didn't want me to get it at the beginning of last season? I'll get it at the beginning of this season. Let's see how you like those out.
The more I think about that aspect of it, the liked tweet and the idea, the thought that was put out there by somebody else. This was like, we haven't heard Michael Thomas come out and say that this is the way that this went down. All he did was like the idea of it because it was something that made him look better.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to look any further into it than that. He liked a tweet that somebody sent out that helps his reputation rather than all of this slander that's out there, where we have now pegged Michael Thomas as the next in a very long line of diva wide receivers that think that they're better than everybody else.
And don't put the team first. And I think that was the part that a lot of people jumped onto, because it didn't make any sense to anybody. It's like, wait a minute. You knew this was a problem for how long, and now you're waiting to the beginning of this football season to try to get it fixed, knowing you're going to be out of commission for however long, and you're going to damage the team's ability to be successful. But I also think there's an aspect to this where we have to remember that Michael Thomas might be looking at the Saints organization and going, I don't want to catch passes from Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. I don't want to do that. I don't want Jameis and Taysom.
Yeah,
Tamus.
Yeah, make him like a power couple.
Yeah, I don't want to catch passes from these guys. I was just catching passes from Drew Hill. So I'm going to get this surgery.
He's catching passes from Cisco. This is a wild turn.
Drew Brees. So I'm going to get this surgery. I'm going to rehab. I'm going to take my time, and I'll be back when I'm back.
Yeah, and now, of course, the rumors are out there that, well, now he's going to get traded.
Right.
And
I don't believe that.
We'll touch on this a little bit later on, the actual contractual impact of trading Michael Thomas, because we've got our money guru joining us in about 30 minutes. But I don't think it's that possible for them to trade him, but I still love having fun with this kind of stuff. I get the same feeling that you do. This almost feels like we're getting into an irreparable situation where Michael Thomas doesn't trust the Saints, and the Saints are upset with Thomas. And if the Saints are being honest with themselves, they probably are better served to enter into rebuild mode than to try and go for it with Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
I think they could, and they still have the roster to get it done. But as pieces
continue
to fall off, it's going to be harder and harder.
I mean, but we all know that they're doing. At best, they're having a decent showing of this season with Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. These two guys, no matter who else is left on their roster, we know that every team lives and dies by quarterback play. I don't care how great everybody else is on the team. And we know that these two guys are only going to take you as far as, oh, they did a good job. It was a decent showing. And, you know, maybe bowed out in the first round of the playoffs. Maybe if you get there, it's a wildly successful season. And I don't know what you're building on top of, with all due respect to one of your favorite players. I don't know what you're building on top of with Jameis Winston.
Well, it's not building on top of for the future. I don't think Jameis is the future, but in terms of what this team is able to do, the reason I've been a fan of the idea of Jameis starting on this team is that at full strength, both offense, defense, everything surrounding this team, how good their head coach is, I think Jameis Winston, if reined in, can be somebody that is actually better than Drew Brees was at the end of his career. And if you get that Jameis, where he's just limiting the mistakes, allowing Sean Payton to call a great game, and relying on the weapons, if Michael Thomas is on the field, he's Alvin Kamara, Jameis Winston's good enough to win you games if everybody else is in place and doing what they're supposed to do. And I've got a lot more confidence in the latter part of that than the Jameis part of that. But if Jameis does have ability, forget he was the number one overall pick for a reason. He was the number one overall pick in the draft with controversy surrounding him. That's how good the Tampa Bay Buccaneers thought he was as a quarterback. They thought the investment was worth it. At this point in his career, he's more talented than Drew Brees was at the end of his, which sounds blasphemous. But
sounds very blasphemous.
Well, but Noodle and Brees, all he could do was throw that 5-yard slant route to either Alvin Kamara or Michael Thomas. That's all he had left. Jameis has levels to his passing ability at this stage.
Right.
So at least he has that. But here's the problem, is that circumstances change. So while Jameis would be well served to help this team stay competitive, I'm not sure that that's going to be the case, because I think there's too many pieces that are falling apart for this team right now. You've got Michael Thomas that's not going to be on the field for half the season. And even if he comes back, we don't know that he's still going to be on the roster or that he's even going to want to play for this team. So we have no idea what's going on with Michael Thomas. Patrick Robinson, we find out after 11 years in the NFL, this was a guy that was supposed to start for them in their defensive backfield. He's retired. He's retired. So we've got pieces that are falling apart. And and Michael Thomas was a key cog to all of this.
Yes, because without Michael Thomas there, you're
relying on Traquan Smith, who we love here in Orlando, but he cannot be your best receiver.
He can't be. And your receiver is going to tell you what levels. You said talk about how there are levels to Jameis Winston's games. Well, the wide receivers that you have available to you are going to tell you what levels you can actually play that game at. And when you're pulling Michael Thomas off the field, now you've subtracted at least a level and a half to what you can actually utilize Jameis Winston with. And that's if Jameis Winston is your starting quarterback.
Right, and he might not be. And I think some people that listen to this will go, it's just a receiver. You can get by. You can get by without, not really. Let's take a look last year at the final 4 teams in the NFL, the teams that made it to the conference championship game. Wide receivers have become infinitely more valuable than they used to be. You have to have a great one if you want to be competitive. You had the Bills, the Chiefs, the Packers, and the Bucks. So you had Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill / Travis Kelce, Devontae Adams, and everybody on the Bucks.
And everybody on the Bucks. That's a lot of weaponry to be able to take your star quarterback and give him the ability to distribute the ball to. And when you have that, you have a weapon that defenses have to pay attention to. And I don't see the New Orleans Saints being anything other than mediocre without Michael Thomas there, and depending on whoever they decide to use as their quarterback. And I kind of feel bad for Sean Payton in it, because I'm like you. I think you might be better served to go ahead, gut this team, tank it out, get yourself a good quarterback, a top 5 quarterback coming in next season, and start to redo this whole thing all over again. Salvage the next 4 or 5 years of Sean Payton as a head coach in New Orleans, because if they try to manage this for the next 2 to 3 years, Sean Payton's head coaching tenure starts to feel a little hot seated.
And I don't think he loses his job, but this is a team that can turn it around quickly if they decide that we're going to go in that direction.
But they've got to turn it around quickly, because even you look at what happened and I'll use the Ravens as an example. You look at what happened with John Harbaugh. He had those 2 or 3 seasons where he hadn't made the playoffs. He wasn't doing so well. And had he not put Lamar Jackson in halfway through the season to salvage that season for him, he was looking at the hot seat the very next season. Now, I don't think he would have gotten fired that next season, but
those guys have so much leeway.
Yeah.
The Sean Paytons, the John Harbaughs, the Mike Tomlins, it just takes so much to get those guys to the point where you go, yeah, we're going to have to let you go. But I do look at the Saints kind of like the Chiefs were before they transitioned to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
They have everything in place. They need to make some tweaks. They're good enough when everything's pointed in the right direction and they have all their stars on the field. But if you don't, then forget it. And amazing that Tom Brady lucks into another terrible division again. I just don't know how this guy continues to do it. I think Tom Brady's the GOAT, but you cannot deny his luck with the crap teams around him throughout his entire
absolutely.
career.
I mean, no matter how great we see Tom Brady as being, his greatness was affected by how terrible the Bills and the Dolphins consistently were in that division, no matter what.
And I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. When he entered in, this was just a year ago.
Yeah.
When he entered into the NFC South, he was looking at a division with Matt Ryan, who's coming off a couple years removed from an MVP season.
That's right.
Cam Newton, a couple of years removed from an MVP season and a Super Bowl visit. Same goes for Matt Ryan, who went to the Super Bowl and played against Tom Brady. And Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Now he's looking at Sam Darnold, a broken down Matt Ryan, and who's the one I'm missing?
Jameis
Taysom.
Yeah, Tamus. Jason. There you go.
Exactly. Amazing. So Vegas has set some odds for teams that could be looking to grab Michael Thomas. And of course, my Miami Dolphins find themselves at the top of this list because anytime there's a player that's set to be on the move, the Dolphins are always one of the teams that is a rumored destination. That's been my entire life. The Dolphins are always on the list. But number 2 on the list is your team, the Baltimore Ravens at plus 600, followed by the Indianapolis Colts, the Kansas City Chiefs. That would be gross.
That would be so disgusting.
The Green Bay Packers, that would also be nasty. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I think is the popular vote, just coming through Twitter and seeing what people are saying about this story, that Jacksonville would make a lot of sense, giving Trevor Lawrence that legitimate number 1. They've got decent weapons, but he would be a legitimate number 1.
Oh, yeah. Jacksonville makes a ton of sense. To me, Jacksonville makes more sense than the Ravens do. Definitely more sense than the Chiefs or the Packers. I'm saying it's either Jacksonville or Miami in that slot because those are the 2 teams that not only can utilize a receiver like that, but need that legitimate, you're the number 1 guy, and we don't have to worry about who else is going to be our number 1 guy from here on out.
Man, I would feel so much more comfortable with Tua going into this year if all he had to do was throw that 5-yard slant to Michael Thomas, because nobody is better at that route tree than Michael Thomas. So he makes your life, if you're a dink and dunk quarterback, he makes your life a whole lot easier. It really was the guy that made Drew Brees still stay as relevant as he was, as Brees looked his final few years. Michael Thomas was the main reason why. So I have a lot of respect for his game. I think it's simple, but it's effective. It's like a good, nice cheese pizza. It's going to get the job done. It's not going to win any awards, but it's rock solid. Up next,
Thomas is a cheese pizza.
That's it.
Love it.
I just honestly, those 13 minutes was just to get to that point. I compared him to a cheese pizza. Up next, Mike Giannetti from